Ever feel like you're juggling chainsaws while riding a unicycle? Yeah, today's deep dive is all about that feeling, that lovely thing we call stress.
Yeah, stress.
We're going to dig into why it seems like humans are practically built to stress out, unlike, say, a zebra just chilling on the savannah.
Right.
Our guide for this journey, this guy, Robert Sapolsky, in his book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers.
Classic.
It's packed with insights into the biology of stress and why, well, it seems like those zebras have it figured out a bit better than we do.
Yeah, the book really hits on, the difference between how humans and animals experience stress.
Right, so like picture this. Zebra's munching on some grass, lion shows up,
Oh, yeah. Big problem.
zebra freaks out, right?
Huge stress. Fight or flight kicks in.
Exactly. But here's the thing. That zebra, after escaping, pretty much goes right back to snacking on grass like nothing happened.
Seems pretty carefree.
So the question is, why don't zebras get ulcers? What's the deal with us humans?
Well, Sapolsky gets into this. Stress in itself isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's designed to be helpful. That fight or flight response, it's a lifesaver when you're facing a real threat.
Yeah, like imagine our ancestors, they're out hunting, saber-toothed tiger jumps out, stress kicks in, boom, they either fight or run like crazy.
Exactly. Adrenaline pumping, senses on high alert.
Survival mode.
It's meant to be short bursts. Your body's like, okay, emergency. Time to release some cortisol, some adrenaline, get the heart racing, get ready to move.
Right, it's like your body's own personal alarm system saying, hey, pay attention, something's up.
Exactly. And the thing is, for animals like our zebra friend, that system works perfectly.
Because the threat is usually pretty obvious, right?
Right. Lion, run away, threat over, done.
But we humans, we tend to overthink things.
Oh, big time.
We stress about things that haven't even happened.
Like, what if I don't get that promotion?
Ah.
What if I mess up that presentation?
Exactly. Or like, what if my phone dies and I miss that really important call?
The what ifs. And the thing is, our brains are amazing, but they're also really good at amplifying those worries.
It's like our brains are playing worst-case scenario roulette all the time.
Yeah, and that's where the trouble starts. That anticipatory stress, that constant worry, it keeps those stress hormones, like cortisol, pumping through our systems.
And it's not like we can just tell our brains to chill out.
Right. It's tough. We're wired for it. Sapolsky really dives into this in the book, how our brains, especially the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning and decision-making, it can also be our downfall when it comes to stress.
So we're kind of stuck with this evolutionary baggage, huh?
Kind of, but the good news is we can learn to manage it. The book gets into all sorts of techniques and strategies.
Well, before we get into that, I think it's important to talk about the real damage that chronic stress can do. It's not just about feeling frazzled or having a bad day. This stuff is serious.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just in your head.
Right. So Polsky really lays out all the different ways chronic stress can mess with your body, like ulcers, for example.
Yeah, ulcers, high blood pressure, a weakened immune system. Makes you more susceptible to all kinds of things.
It's wild how something that starts in your head can have such a huge impact on your physical health.
It all goes back to those stress hormones. When they're constantly elevated, they can disrupt almost every system in the body.
So your body's basically in a constant state of fight or flight, even though there's no lion chasing you.
Exactly, and that takes a toll.
Okay, so let's talk about solutions,
Mhm.
because I know Sapolsky offers a bunch of different ways to manage stress.
He does, and some of them are pretty surprising, like humor.
Humor, really?
Yeah, it sounds simple, but laughter can actually be a really powerful antidote to stress. It releases endorphins, those feel-good chemicals.
Makes sense. When you're laughing, it's hard to feel stressed at the same time.
Exactly. Plus, humor can help you shift your perspective. Sometimes just finding the funny side of a stressful situation can make it feel a lot less overwhelming.
So it's like, don't take yourself too seriously.
Exactly. And of course, there are the classics like exercise.
Yeah, I was going to say, everyone knows exercise is good for stress.
It is. It helps to burn off that excess energy and those stress hormones. And it can also help you sleep better, which is huge when it comes to managing stress.
Right, because when you're exhausted, everything seems more stressful.
Totally. And then there's meditation, which I know can sound a little woo-woo to some people.
Yeah, like I was supposed to just sit there and think about nothing.
Well, not exactly nothing. But yeah, the basic idea is to focus on your breath, on the present moment, and let go of all those racing thoughts.
So how does that actually help with stress?
Well, studies have shown that meditation can actually change the structure of your brain over time. It can shrink the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that processes fear and anxiety.
Really? So it's like actually rewiring your brain to be less reactive to stress.
Exactly. And at the same time, meditation strengthens the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that helps you regulate your emotions and make more rational decisions.
So you're basically building mental muscle to deal with stress.
Exactly. It's like a workout for your brain.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Now, Sapolsky also talks about how different personality types handle stress differently, like type A versus type B.
Right. He gets into this whole concept of like, are you someone who thrives under pressure? Or does it make you want to hide under a rock?
It's like those classic type A personalities, always go, 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 super competitive. Do they experience more stress, you think?
Well, it's interesting. You might think they do, right? Always striving, pushing themselves. But it's not that simple.
Right, because some people really do seem to thrive in those high-pressure environments.
Exactly. It's more about how you perceive and manage the stress rather than the amount of stress itself.
So it's not about trying to change your personality, but
Yeah.
more about understanding your own tendencies and figuring out what works for you.
Exactly. Find what helps you de-stress, whether it's exercise, meditation, hanging out with friends, whatever works.
I love that. It's like personalize your own stress management toolkit.
Exactly. And, it's important to remember that we're not just dealing with stress in a vacuum. Our environment plays a huge role. Sapolsky argues that modern society, with its constant demands and distractions, is practically designed to stress us out.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like we're constantly bombarded with information, emails, notifications, news. It's overwhelming.
Right, and we're expected to be available 24/7. It's like we're cavemen and cavewomen living in a hyper-stimulating digital world.
Our poor brains are just not equipped to handle it all.
Exactly. Our bodies and minds weren't designed for this level of constant stimulation.
So what's the takeaway here? We can't exactly escape modern society.
No, but we can be more mindful of how we interact with it. We can set boundaries, prioritize our time, and make sure we're taking care of ourselves both physically and mentally.
It's like we need to learn how to be more like those zebras, right? Chill out, enjoy the moment, and not let the stress get to us.
I think that's a great goal. We may not be able to live like carefree zebras on the savannah, but we can learn from them.
This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening, and it's given me a lot to think about in terms of how I manage my own stress.
Me too.
If our brains are so powerful that they can amplify stress, can't we also train them to, I don't know, like dial it down?
I think that's the million-dollar question, and I think Sapolsky would say, yes, we can.
I love that. It gives me hope.
Me too. It's empowering to know that we have more control over our stress levels than we might think. We're not just victims of our circumstances.
That's a great takeaway. So for everyone listening, I hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought and maybe even some new tools to manage stress in your own lives. We're not zebras, but we can learn to live a little more like them.
Exactly. Less stress, more joy. That's the goal.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of stress.
It's been a pleasure.